Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Therapy for Guys. I think you're in for a real treat. Johnny Santos is a wonderful young man. He's an influencer on Instagram. And in this conversation, we get real about the reality of mental health. There's a lot of noise out there on social media from male influencers that, mental health is bullshit, that it's not real. And he and I serve to dispel that myth, and he gets into his own lived experience, exploring some of his childhood, some of his adolescence, and his own sort of battle and work around depression. He speaks about the positive aspects of therapy in his life and the importance of being grateful and also learning to celebrate the good. There's so much great shit that we explore in this episode. I hope that you really enjoy it. And I hope that you'll share it with your friends, that you'll subscribe to the YouTube page. And as always, remember, continue the conversation. So, Johnny, thank you so much for coming to my home podcast studio and being a guest on this podcast, Therapy for Guys. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Of course, thank you so much for the opportunity. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to be able to ever be in a podcast this soon in life. Um, I always spoke to my friends about starting a podcast maybe because I like to talk and I think I know what I'm talking about. But, you know, that's for another time, I guess.
Yeah. So I always like kind of starting at the very beginning of somebody's story.
Right.
And
Okay.
and I was hoping maybe you could take us back, to your childhood and just talk about, where you're from, maybe a little bit about your family, and then maybe we can get into some of the mental health stuff,
Right.
that we've kind of talked about.
Right. So I come from a very extremely supportive family. I feel like no matter who's in my family, I have some people who are a bit more strict, but like everyone in my family has that. I guess they have that caring personality of them, and I guess that's what I got from them and my genetics, and that's something that I'm really grateful for because as I was growing up, I'm someone who didn't really understand myself because it's normal to not understand other people. But then when you don't understand yourself, it's kind of like, okay, well, then who does, right?
Right.
And I guess they didn't understand me either, but I was never allowed to, I guess, be mad about that because even though they didn't really understand me, they realized, okay, I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm here for you. And filling me up with positive ways of thinking and putting me in therapy and medication, a bunch of stuff. It's really it's really helped me out throughout my life. So
Sure. So it sounds like you had a very supportive family,
extremely.
but maybe there were things they didn't quite understand, and I think that's
Right.
pretty common. Um, what were some of the things that you struggled with growing up that maybe your family had a hard time understanding?
Definitely school.
Okay.
I hate school. I've hated school my whole life. And I guess it started whenever for 1 year of school, I got amazing grades. And then at the end of the year, I thought to myself, okay, so why am I getting these good grades? And then I realized that it wasn't really for me. It was, for my parents. So
Sure.
they don't get mad, so they don't, to make them proud. And then I thought to myself, well, it's my life. It's not their life. I'll respect them. They're my parents, but I gotta do my own thing too, or else I'm gonna go crazy.
Sure.
Like I'm already confused of why I'm not doing the same thing as everybody else. So that just wouldn't help.
Sure. So let me ask you this. I know that you really love learning, but that's different than the school experience.
Yeah.
So what do you think it was about school that made it something you really didn't want to do?
Well, I feel like education is extremely important. I think that education is one of the most important things in the world, and you always have to be educated. You always have to be reading. You always have to be knowing what is going on around the world. But I feel like forcing everybody to be educated the same exact way, which is going to school, then college, this and that. I don't. Yeah. Some people will learn better with their hands. Some people learn better. People learn different ways.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, I know in terms of your story, one of the things that I want to kind of bring up that I think is really important is, you're not from the United States. You're
No,
originally from Brazil.
Brazil.
Can you just speak to that and what that was like, and maybe even how that is a part of your identity today?
Uh, yeah. So I actually came to America when I was 7 years old, but the Brazilian culture is very, very family, very connected. So being able to go from Brazil to here, it's I would say that it was pretty hard, but it's actually not because my family's like still the same. And the crazy part is that they all live close to each other, or
Yeah.
even closer. They all live in the same neighborhood. So the same way that in Brazil I had my uncles and aunts and this and that, I have the same thing here. So it's not like I came here without really knowing anything. I just always stayed behind my family, and they just guided me to the point where I could just do things on my own. And it took like 2, 3 months for me to start speaking English.
Oh, okay. So you picked
Yeah.
it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, but I guess when you're younger and you're around all the kids in elementary school and they're all speaking English, at one point you're gonna
Oh, yeah.
at one point.
Yeah. I was very young when my parents moved to the United States. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. And, I didn't speak any English when I first came here, but I was put into like an ESL program, English as second language program. And then
Right.
I think in pre-K or kindergarten, and picked up English really well. And now I feel more comfortable in English and
Exactly.
Spanish.
And then now whenever my parents want to learn English, it's like impossible for them. And they
Mm,
go crazy. They're like, "Well, how come this and that?" I I mean, they've been s- I was speaking Portuguese for 7 years. They were speaking Portuguese for like 20 years,
yeah,
30 years, you know? So
sure.
that's obviously where the problem where the problem starts, but I'm still trying to push them to learn. I think it's important. They understand, they just don't like to talk. They think they get embarrassed.
Sure. And I totally get that.
Yeah, I understand. Uh but yeah, I'm trying to also learn a bit more about Spanish.
Okay.
A lot about Spanish,
It's a
honestly.
great language.
Yeah. I'm trying to I'm trying to just talk. I'm trying to be able to talk to as many different people as possible.
Sure.
And I think that it would be extremely important for me to learn Spanish. And of course, the best way again is by staying around people that speak Spanish. And I have my best friend speaks Spanish, but it's like it's almost impossible for me to
Right.
learn that. It's so similar to Portuguese. That's what makes it almost impossible. Because then I mix everything that I think about. I just say it in Portuguese
Oh, that's interesting.
instead of Spanish. So people think, oh, well, you speak Portuguese. You have an advantage. No, I don't.
That's interesting. I don't
Yeah.
think I thought it that way.
Right.
My wife is currently, she doesn't speak Spanish, but she's trying to learn through like Duolingo is one of the apps.
Right.
And man, she's had a lot, like almost half a year every day, just kind of working at it, and she's gotten much better. But that got me thinking. One day I want to learn Italian because
Italian.
because Portuguese, Spanish, Italian,
Right.
and then I think Romanian those are the love languages, and so there's some similarities. And I just think it
Yeah.
would be cool to speak it. My mom speaks Italian. She ended up doing some college in Italy. That was one of her majors, and so I've always thought it's a beautiful language.
I I love the accents. I have to be honest.
I do too.
I wish
They're
I was
quite
thinking
sexy.
I was thinking like, you can't build an accent, can you?
I guess you could fake one, but they don't sound very good.
Like, I feel like that's what I'm saying. When I learn Spanish,
Sure.
when I'm allowed to speak Spanish normally and regularly, I'm never gonna be able to have the accent,
Mm,
which is what I wanted. I wanted the accent. I like the accent.
sure.
But yeah.
So, okay, Johnny, let me ask you this, and this is connecting it back to your childhood and coming from a different culture, from the Brazilian culture. I know we can't ever speak for everyone, but in our conversations, you've mentioned that at least your family, maybe other people from Brazil don't necessarily see mental health the same
Right.
way that maybe someone from the United States would. And even here, there's a lot of people that either don't believe in it or struggle understanding it.
I mean, I feel like that's everything. I feel like it doesn't have to just be with depression. I feel like no matter how much you explain to someone, let's give an example.
Sure.
PTSD.
Okay. Yeah,
No
put
matter
put the mic a little bit closer to you and then it'll.
no matter how much you explain to someone how PTSD is like, they will only figure out how it is once they've been through it.
Yeah.
No matter how much you explain, no matter how much you give the details, you're only gonna understand if you've been through it. So whenever people like, Andrew Tate, when people like Andrew Tate um, say things like depression's not real, this and that, I don't really get offended. I don't really get mad about things like that because I realize that if people are saying this and that and you've never gone through it, then it's kind of impossible to believe it. But they put it in the category as depression and sadness, but depression is more than sadness in my opinion. More well, not an opinion, it's a fact because I've been through it.
Yeah. No, you have.
You can't. It's something that you can't. I don't know which one's worse, depression or anxiety, to be honest.
Mm.
So whenever people, like I was saying, whenever people talk about it and they say it's not real, the second they go through something like that, it's something completely different.
Yeah.
They realize that it's not just you're sad or extremely sad or depressed or something bad happened to you. That's why you're sad.
Sure.
It's like, okay, what is making you sad? Let's make a list of what's making you sad, of what's making you depressed. You don't have a job, you don't have money, your family, you're having trouble with your family. There's a lot of reasons why people would go through depression. Okay, now let's compare that to someone who has everything but is feeling even worse than that person.
Mm.
Now tell me, explain that.
Yeah. I don't know how
Right?
you can,
You
right?
can't because it's kind of impossible to explain that that person with everything has everything but nothing at the same time.
Mm.
And that person with nothing, a lot of people have nothing, but they have this their mentality is just out of this world and they're
Sure.
able to go through any obstacle and they're able to have a positive attitude regardless.
Sure.
And that's the that's the difference. I think people should stop thinking about I think people just stop putting the category of depression and sadness together, honestly.
So you're saying when people equate sadness and depression,
Yeah.
that's really unhelpful.
You can say that when go through depression, you're sad,
Sure.
but what I'm trying to say is the whole the society, just
Sure.
the world,
Sure.
to stop putting depression as it's the same thing as sadness, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I actually think this is where when Andrew Tate, just to pick on him for a second, when he says depression isn't real or, just change your mindset and you'll no longer be depressed. I mean, I think he's probably talking about some kind of like just small bit of sadness or just a hard moment. Okay, yeah, just change your mindset and you'll be better. I don't think it works that way when we're talking about actual depression.
I want people to know that, and I'm talking to the audience right now, that I want people to know that it's not about changing your mind. It's about still having that same mindset that you cannot control, but physically forcing yourself to do better,
Mm,
physically making that first step, because that's the whole foundation. You need a good foundation.
mm,
You need a good base. You need something to hold right there. And the hardest part, you know that like somebody that overcomes depression and become very successful, they know all of them know they know that the hardest part is that switch of your whole lifestyle changing from doing nothing, sitting at home every day, or doing a lot of stuff but extremely sad to
sure.
actually going out in the world and doing something and changing their whole, maybe just changing their job or what they're doing, or just even working out.
Mm,
Um, Even little things like that. Of course, it's different for everybody, but I've heard people who, you know, even just eating healthier, little
sure.
things like that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
doesn't that sounds simple, but it's not as simple. Whenever you can't physically get out of bed, when you can't process in your head, and you can't handle the fact that you have to go through another day.
Yeah.
It's not it's the scariest thing in the world.
Mm. So I know we could sit here and, explain to everyone what all the symptoms of depression are, like from a website or a textbook or something called the DSM-5 is what they use to kind of diagnose someone. And I don't really want to do that. I want to learn from you, from your actual experience, what depression was like. Because I think we both agree depression is something real. It's something that you've really battled with. What was it like from your perspective? Share whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay. One thing that I like to
Yeah, there you go. If you talk into that
right, right,
circle,
right, right.
there you go.
Let me sit up a bit more. One thing that I like to do is I like to be 100% real um, whenever I speak to an audience or whenever I speak to anyone. So I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah, you're not gonna bullshit anybody.
I'm not gonna bullshit anybody, and I'm gonna say it's pretty bad. Uh, well, I guess whenever I came here from Brazil, I started getting the first thing that started happening to me
And when just for
ever.
the audit, when was that? What year? How old were you?
I was 7 years old.
Okay.
I can't think right now about the year, but I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Um, and the first thing that actually started happening to me was anger issues.
Mm,
And I started as a very young kid. I started just having these tantrums and just going crazy around the house and breaking walls and punching doors and kicking tables. But it was this uncontrollable anger.
mm,
It is not something where the kid is misbehaving, so you punish them and that's it.
right.
It's something that's like, okay, you're gonna punish me. That's gonna piss me off even more.
Sure.
And as a little kid, you're not supposed to be thinking like that, right? And so I started having anger issues living with my grandparents because my mom and dad are divorced, and I live with my grandparents.
Yeah. And how old were you when they got divorced?
I was I was 10 or 9, 10,
Okay.
10.
So
Yeah.
maybe 2 to 3 years
Right.
after
Yes.
you guys moved to the
Yeah, I was
States.
10. I'm almost
Sure.
100% that I was 10 years old.
So let me pause you real quick before you move on, just to kind of understand the story. Um, Not that you were aware of it when you were 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know that we're fully understanding of what's going on, but looking back, do you know what was so upsetting? What the anger was ultimately about? Or is that still kind of a mystery?
I know fear fear at a young age about
Mm,
the world, I guess. Because I remember that when I wouldn't get my way, like I would obviously be angry and stuff, and my dad super strict. He
okay.
would punish me. He would do everything. Uh, but the one thing is, oh, can you edit that part out?
Yeah,
Only because I forgot that question. What was the question?
sure. In terms of your dad, or in terms of the anger, what you were angry about?
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Uh, I was really, I was really scared about the future at a young age,
Mm,
and I feared death a lot at a young age, and I guess that you're not supposed to be thinking like that when you're so young. And I was 11 years old, 12, 13, and I was just thinking to myself at night, obviously sweating and anxious, but I didn't know it was anxiety. thought it was just I was just stressed,
Right.
right? Just normal stresses, just the normal me. And I remember thinking, I can't I can't process the afterlife just being completely blank for
Mm.
eternity. Just darkness, just completely nothing. Like after we die. Like I just in the understanding of life and like what happens after death, everything, it was just scary to me. And this is something that Jordan Peterson was talking about. He was saying that we get so anxious about little things, but also we all know that we're gonna die and
Right.
we're not anxious about that.
Mm.
I mean, we all know it's gonna happen for sure. That's the one thing that's guaranteed. We're not anxious about that. So the human brain is just such a complicated thing.
Yeah, it
And I
is.
guess that if you wanna put it in extremely small words of how of like my whole experience of what I got from all this is that life is complicated.
Yes.
And
That's one of my favorite
yeah,
words. Complicated.
it's extremely complicated. It's too complex, which
Yes.
is what makes it fun, obviously. If it was,
There you go.
right?
Yeah, if it was simple, it'd be boring as fuck.
Imagine if it was extremely simple. That would be terrible.
It would be.
That would be so boring. It would be like no options to do anything.
Yeah, I don't really want to be a part of that type of existence.
Yeah, that would be awful. But so I had anger issues, and it got to a point where after a whole year of me being like this, or almost 2 years, my whole family kind of got into a meeting at my house,
Okay.
and were talking about what they should do and like different things that they could do, and they could take away my Xbox and a bunch of stuff like that, and just punish me and take me away from my grandparents' house and
Mm.
a bunch of stuff like that.
Taking away your Xbox would probably piss you off more,
That would
right?
piss me off. I was addicted. Nuh-uh, that would piss me off. I would come home every day and play. That was my favorite thing.
Mm.
That's what would make me happy at that time was video games. So
Sure.
obviously right now the Xbox is like, but back then when I was little, it was a big
It was the shit.
right.
So, remember where you were, but one of the questions that I have for you is kind of during that time, those 2 years, you were really struggling with anger.
Right.
Clearly, your family was there supporting you. What did like friendships look like? Do you feel like you had made the transition from Brazil to the United States? Did you feel plugged in? I know you didn't like school, but did you have school friends? Were you in some good relationships, or was that a struggle as well?
For the first years, it was extremely difficult
Okay. How
to
so?
it's because I could fit in, but at the same time I couldn't because I was always trying to be what I wasn't. I was always trying to I guess I guess that it was so beneficial to not fit in because that's where I kind of understood that I'm not meant to follow the crowd.
Mm.
Because every time that there were the popular kids in like junior high or something, wearing all Nike and the Nike socks and always playing football and stuff, I'd be like, I kind of want to be like that because that might get me some more, some more females. That might get me some
Sure.
more
You
friends.
might become more popular.
Popularity, that was a thing,
Sure.
which obviously like people want to be known.
Sure.
I'm not gonna even like back then, and I realized like no matter how much I want to be known and no matter how much I want to be popular, that's just that person, the popular sports kids, like like that whole squad. That's just not who I was. I was meant
Gotcha.
for something a bit different than that.
Sure.
And I spent a couple of like my whole junior high and elementary. I was just trying to fit into people like that with people like that, and it just wouldn't really go on my favor. But I always had a really good way of not giving a fuck.
A really good way of not giving a fuck. I love that.
Yeah.
Say more about that. Where do you think that comes from?
I had
What did
a
that look like?
I guess it comes from my mom and my dad because they have this whole thing of like my grandmother's completely opposite. She's like, "Oh, what if they think this and that?"
Okay.
So my mom and dad are like, "This is your life. God put you here. Live the fuck out of your life, and don't care." Like those people that are looking at you in public, they don't. They're gonna forget about you in the next 3 minutes or even less
Sure.
than that. So me being able to walk in the hallways wearing my own style and not really caring, and people obviously making fun of me, and like throughout the classes, and me having this reputation of a kid who wasn't really good at school, kind of like just like a dumb kid who didn't care about anything.
Right.
I feel like I was blessed to have that good way to not care, to not
Mm.
give a fuck, because if I did care about that, it wouldn't have been helpful, especially for my
Mm.
age back then.
Sure.
It wouldn't have been helpful at all. So I was able to not care from a early age, which is kind of, now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy how that means that I was so good at not caring about what people think. That's because I have such a hard time understanding myself, that I'm only focused on myself and what I think about myself.
Mm.
And I am so hungry on understanding myself that no matter like what people do, like it's just not, it's like it's me.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I guess a lot of people say they don't care, but in reality they do.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I don't care what people think, and then internally
Internally
they
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 do.
care way too much, or they really think
Yeah.
about what people think about them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the part that kind of got to me is like, okay, so why do I actually not care?
This is good. So I want you to talk about that because, you know what I do as a therapist. I see a lot of, let's say, teenage guys, and they'll come in the beginning and they're like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, but you can just tell that they care deeply what others
Right.
think.
Right.
So help us understand that.
I guess it's not much of a I don't care about what people think. It's more of a I'm only gonna care about what is beneficial to me,
Okay. Oh,
regardless if it's, criticizing me or not.
sure, sure.
So what I mean by that is like, if someone is saying something, if someone's just talking just to talk, and they're like, maybe like, let's just say they say that my tattoos are ugly or something,
Sure.
and I say okay, and then they start saying why it's ugly. I mean, if they give me a good explanation and they talk to me about it and stuff, like I can choose the information that I want to take,
Yeah.
the information that's beneficial. But any noise in the background, any useless noise, like, oh, it's because maybe because you have a hoodie as your tattoo, or because it looks stupid, any of that is just noise
Okay.
that doesn't really, if I take it in, I feel like I'm the wrong one, because they have the rights to say what they want. They're not wrong for saying those things about my tattoos.
Sure.
We live in a place where it's freedom of speech. You can say what you want,
Yeah.
unless it's, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
But I also have the rights to take that in. I have the choice to take that in or not.
Mm.
If I take that in, and if I start thinking like, dang, the hoodie is kind of ugly, then then I let that affect me.
Sure.
I allowed it to happen. I could not allow it to happen anytime I want.
No, that's really good.
Right.
So Johnny, let me ask you this, because I know for me, it's sometimes hard to determine what is beneficial for me. And here's kind of what I mean. Yeah, I get hungry and I want to go through Whataburger and get a double fucking meat bacon cheeseburger. And I'm not shitting on that, but at my age, almost 40, I probably shouldn't be eating that kind of shit. But it feels good. I would think that it's beneficial for me, but ultimately it's not.
Ultimately, it's not.
So
And
how do you decide what's beneficial for you when there's so much stuff out there that's calling for not just your attention, but for our attention? Like what's really good for us versus maybe what feels good in the moment.
this is something that I really wanted to talk about for a long time.
Oh, good.
And that's where I am not going to give an answer, because there is no correct answer.
Mm.
The only correct answer is that you decide for yourself of what's actually beneficial and what's actually not.
Mm.
Because everybody, if I give an answer, everyone's life, every decision that they make, it has to come from them and their vision of their life.
Yes.
It can't come from me. I can't give an answer, because no matter what answer I give, it'll be impossible for it to be valid to everyone in the world.
Got you.
So the only thing that I could say right now that is valid to everyone is you make that decision for yourself, for your own life. And don't, a lot of people a lot of people want to make I'm going to give an example. They want to make a change in their life. Let's say they say, "Okay, I'm going to stop eating junk food."
Right.
Right? And then, okay, one burger won't hurt.
Right. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have one tonight.
And then
But not at Whataburger. Fuck that. I'm gonna go somewhere nice.
No.
Although no shade on Whataburger. I actually love Whataburger, but
Whataburger's not even bad, to be honest. It's okay. They made a new one actually next to where I live. Oh no, that's bad. There's a lot of Whataburgers.
and they're open
24/7.
24/7. So be careful.
Oof.
Okay, I'm sorry. I totally derailed us.
okay.
Where were you? You were talking about how you have a hard time answering my question of how does someone know what's beneficial to them, because not only is everyone different, but you have to really understand what's beneficial for yourself.
So the example I was giving is like food.
Okay.
So one burger wouldn't be bad. I'll work out tomorrow. I'll have a cheap meal the next day too, because I'm working out, so I'm still eating way less burgers. You gotta be strict with yourself. You gotta not be comfortable, because that's the change. If you're doing something in life, if you make that change and you are not feeling uncomfortable, like, now I gotta get used to this new way of living, then you're not doing it right. Then it's not enough change, because you have to lay out what's making you feel this way in your life, what is not good.
Right.
And if that doesn't get completely like opposite of that, then you're never gonna go anywhere. That's what I say. That change is that first step. Instead of saying, "Oh, maybe one, this and that," you look in the mirror or you think to yourself in the car or anything you say. And you say, "I'm done. I'm never going to eat this shit again." And you do your thing. And then maybe after your life starts becoming better, you can go out with your friends. You can stay productive and then celebrate with that if you want.
Okay.
When
I
you
like that.
celebrate, yeah, I think it's extremely important to celebrate. It's important to work hard and to change, but I think it's important to celebrate, because regardless, we're all human, and I feel like regardless, we all need that validation. And I'm not saying validation from other people, but even celebrating just with yourself. You need to know, like, I'm proud of myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
My
think
life changed.
taking time to celebrate and to let things soak in, I think is so
Right.
important.
It's
So,
very important.
okay, I want to ask you this. So, it kind of builds on something you were talking about.
Right.
So, to set a little bit of the context, I really enjoy this ancient philosophy called Stoicism, and one of the figures who wrote, thousands of years ago at this point, said, we have to be hard on ourselves. And that sounds like what you were talking about, but I guess what I'm really wanting to know from your perspective is, what are the healthy ways that we can be hard on ourselves, but then what are unhealthy ways? Because I feel like there's ways where I'm hard on myself and ways that my clients are hard on themselves that really do a lot of damage. They keep them depressed. They make their self-esteem really low. And I don't think that's what Marcus Aurelius was talking about, or what you were just talking about. What's like a healthy way of being hard on yourself?
I think that a lot of people, they mess up their mental state trying to solve a physical state problem.
Okay.
So if I'm trying to be healthy and I'm trying to work out, it's a physical problem. Let's say I'm overweight and it's like a physical, it's a problem, it's an issue. Well, I'm not gonna go to the gym to get my body better, and I'm thinking to myself, like having like all these bad thoughts and stuff, like, what if this doesn't work out, this and that, and just putting kind of like mental stress, like if you put a physical issue, and if you kind of if you kind of correlate that with like something mentally, if you understand what I mean. So if I'm overweight and I want to work out. I want to start doing fitness. I always got to make sure that while I'm trying to get my body to be the best way possible, I need to get my mind to be the best way possible. And I think it's not letting, this is the physical part, this is the mental part, not letting any of them go down.
Okay.
So a lot of people kind of like they want their physical part to go up, like working out and stuff, but then their mental's like,
It's
you see what
going,
I mean? It's
yeah,
kind of like
there's like
this,
a imbalance.
or their mental and then their physical's like, but you want them to be like this.
Okay.
And I think that's the issue. I think that's why a lot of people with mental health issues, they try to escape and they end up getting even worse than before.
Mm.
Is because, you know, I think they just don't know how to help themselves out. And that's why I think people should be more aware, is because we're selfless people. Like we need help from people no matter what we do. But at the same time, it's like if you don't understand yourself, it's like impossible to,
Yeah.
if you can't help yourself, it's like impossible to go through life.
Sure.
And I feel like that's why it's so important to have therapy and a lot of stuff like that, just mental health awareness things, because the real problem is whenever you don't understand yourself.
Yeah.
That's where it's very complicated.
So, man, there's so much there that I want to ask you about, but I guess I'll start by asking, you know, I feel in working with a lot of men and, you know, probably watching too much social media that there's a message out there that for a lot of guys, you've got to do shit on your own. You know, you can't rely on anybody. You can't depend on anybody. I feel like you're sending a different message than that. I feel like you're a very masculine guy. You're strong. You're making something out of your life, but you're not doing it on your own. So speak to that.
I feel like you gotta be a dangerous person, because at the same time you think, oh well, I'm a selfless person. I completely value the help of others and I help others too. I think that we all need to help each other in this world, and that's my whole, like, that's my point.
Sure.
And that's kind of like the little trick that I have of being so-called dangerous, is because at the same time that I'm a selfless person and talk about it like that, no one's, it's like I know who I'm going to put in my life. I know who I'm going to allow to be in my life, and I'm extremely strict with it, because whenever you're a people person, there a lot of bad things could happen. People could take advantage of you, people could stab you in the back, people could use you. A lot of things could happen.
Sure.
So I think you have to be extremely strict with who you let in your life.
Okay.
And it's hard because guys want somebody, you know?
Sure.
Guys want love. Guys want to do
Acceptance.
their own thing, and acceptance, while still having like a girl, or be able to go hang out with friends anytime they want. Guys
Sure.
want that, but
So are you partly saying to any, let's say, guy that's listening? I mean, it's probably true for females too, but I know we're kind of focusing on men at the moment, right, that at your age, you know, late teens and early 20s, you're going to lose some friendships, and maybe you should. Is that part of what you're saying?
I think that it's beneficial to lose friendships,
and that's hard to hear.
That's hard to hear because it's beneficial, but the second you are able to go forward in life without depending on the people who aren't good for your life, the second you're able to go forward and you're able to say fuck off to anyone who is not beneficial in your life, no matter how close they are to you, you become a very, very different person. You become a very different person, because it's hard to say no to a friend. It's hard to cut ties. It's hard to.
Why? I agree 100% that it's hard to say no and to cut ties to previous friends that we thought were awesome.
Right.
But why is it so hard, do you think?
It's because us humans are product of expectations. All we do is make expectations.
Mm.
And they're false expectations, but that's normal. That's how we become happy. That's how we just think about things. So whenever you have a really close friend, and obviously your expectations with a close friend is, hey, I'm gonna grow up with this person. I'm good, this and that. Like that's my homie and stuff.
Ride or die, baby.
Exactly. And then the second, let's say high school is over, and what you want to do just doesn't match what they want to do, or that's fine, but they're just bringing you down,
Sure.
and that's just not. They're not. It's not that they're not helping you. It's not like you just want them for benefits or anything, but they're putting you down. It's like, okay, if you want to help, you help. If you want to not help, you can just stay here and at least respect me.
Sure.
But once you start putting me down, that's where I have to kind of be on the selfish level.
Yeah.
Do you see the kind of like the balance, how we were talking about how I'm so selfless, like I think we all need help.
Yeah.
But now I'm talking about how we should be selfish.
Yes.
That's the whole balance I'm trying to
Yes.
talk about.
So, okay, I want to throw out a quote that I think captures that, and it's something that we explored, early in our work together that I think you really liked.
Right.
It comes from the therapist Albert Ellis, and he said the goal of life should be to put ourselves first and then others a very close second.
Oof.
Help us understand what you think he meant by that. Putting ourselves first and others a close second.
That's probably what I'm trying to say, but just that quote probably says exactly what I'm trying to say.
I think so, yeah.
That's pretty crazy, actually. So when he says that, I think he means that people are very important to the world
Yeah,
and have love for the world and have love for people, but also understand who you are and understand who deserves to be in your life and who doesn't.
sure.
Because sometimes you really want someone to deserve to be in your life. Sometimes you really like someone and you just really want them to be in your life, but they just don't deserve it. And
Sure.
that's where you have to kind of separate,
Yeah,
which is so difficult. But that's essential. That's what you have to do.
Mm.
If you're looking to change the world, if you're looking to become successful, if you see yourself as an important figure in this world, you cannot let other people have the ability to do whatever they want to you. You can't have those people to have the ability to be in your mind
absolutely.
as
100%.
much as the actual good people. You want the good people to be exclusive.
Okay.
Even if the good people in my life, the good friends. So I have these two close friends. I'm going to tell you about three of my close friends:
Yeah, sounds great.
Trevor, Julio, and Ty. And they, well, Trevor, he's been like for a couple of years now, and he was my gym partner for a long, long time. But Ty and Julio, they actually record for me and they film for me and they kind of help me set everything up.
Nice.
They go in the Houston trips with me, they go to all those other places with me. And then it's like, okay, well, so those are good friends because they do things for you? Well, no, it's because I never had an expectation.
Mm.
But it came from them themselves. They thought to themselves, I'm going to help him out. And that's all it takes.
Mm.
It is not hard. Like, come on, people. Like, people's morals are fucked. And
People's morals are fucked. Yeah.
and it pisses me off. It's like people, it's just about them, them, them. Like,
Mm.
okay, well, if you don't care about anybody in the world, then it's gonna be impossible for the world to be better, right?
Right.
'Cause I feel like everyone needs to care for one another. And if you just care about yourself, it's like, all right, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but yeah, I think that me being able,
Somebody, man, am I? Hold on. Let me turn this off real quick. I thought I had it on. Do not disturb. There we go. Okay.
so yeah, it just came from them,
Sure.
and that made me feel, and those are the type of things that I'm trying to talk about. It's not complicated. It's really not that complicated.
Sure.
People make it so difficult these days to just be a good person. But you know why they make it difficult? I know why they make it so difficult. Because whenever I am a good person with a good heart and I expect you to be the same way towards me
Right.
and that doesn't work out because you don't like that person might not have a bigger as big of a heart as me, or that person just doesn't isn't the same person as me.
Right.
Not the same person at all. Then that makes you like you get these false expectations and you just obviously not that doesn't that it completely unmotivates you to do good to the world
Right.
whenever you expect other people to treat you the same way or even better, and then like that doesn't happen.
Sure.
You have to realize that if you want to do good to people, do good for them.
Mm.
Give. That should be the main thing, is give to them. Stop don't give so you can receive later.
Sure.
Do you understand what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah, absolutely.
It's just the main purpose is to give. I went through 10 years of my life already at 19 years old going through hell, and I want to give to the people. I want to be
Yeah.
able to let them know that it's okay, and I want them to have that second option, because a lot of people don't have that second option.
Right.
I had that second option to kind of force myself for weeks to get my shit together, as I was crying every single day and like, having a bunch of, some things I'm not gonna say that happened.
Sure. Sure.
So, and you really think I'm gonna want something from people?
Right.
I went through that, so some people could understand, like, they're not alone.
Yeah.
A lot of people are alone, though. A lot of people are, and it's such a sad thing because at the same time, so I could be going through so much, but compared to what other people go through,
Right.
it's like, and some of them are still able to keep a smile on their faces,
Mm.
which is what makes me go crazy. I went with uh, Julio and Ty a couple of days ago to Houston, and we just walk around, drive around, try to get good pictures, try to different stuff,
Sure.
different areas, just trying to explore and get different content every day. And I see a homeless person, and he's just laying on the street, or he's not laying, but he has like all his stuff like on the side. That's where he's gonna sleep, obviously. It's
Sure.
like the hard floor and stuff. Dude looks happier than me.
Mm.
Who the fuck am I to be? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then that's what I think, and then that's the part that kind of makes me sad. It's like, look at him,
Mm.
and he's able to smile, and I'm here like everything. Like,
Mm.
I'm doing great. I have people who love me. I have people who I'm allowed to impact in a positive way, which is all I want.
Right.
And I'm here like this. And that's the part where I even think to myself, wow, I am so um I even think to myself, I could be saying that I am so ungrateful,
Sure.
but at the same time, I'm more grateful than anything to be here today.
Yeah. See, I think when you were talking about a moment ago, the importance of pausing and celebrating, I was hoping you could talk about the importance of gratitude and taking those moments
Right.
of seeing someone who's homeless, but recognizing that there's a part of them that's really happy, and just then reflecting on your own life and being grateful for everything you have, how that plays a role in helping you kind of get out of the type of depression that someone can be in.
I think that that's more motivating than all those famous people and rich people nowadays. I think that's more motivating than all the influencers nowadays. I
Okay.
think that's more motivating than most people nowadays. And because I would much rather, I don't, it hits me more whenever someone beats all the odds
Mm.
and is still happy
Mm.
compared to someone who's had everything, if you see
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it impresses me even more whenever the person that is happy didn't even overcome it yet.
Mm.
That part is like, what? like, motherfucker, you're happy after you overcome it.
Yeah.
So why are you happy right now? But they just have such a,
What do you think that's about?
that's about God, or that's about just the faith that they have, or just the way they say humanity.
Mm,
Uh, and it has, and I think it has a lot to do with just us humans. We're so good at adapting to our environment
mm,
that I think it has to do with, has a lot to do with that.
sure.
It's an adaptation, because even though it's a very really bad spot to be, they are able to, even if they don't get out of that situation, they still fight,
Right.
and they're able to keep fighting. And and I pray, I hope that once this whole thing is over, they get what they deserve in
Yeah.
the afterlife, or whatever happens after
Mm,
death. I hope they get what they deserve, because a lot of those people are good people. You can tell they're good people. I look at them and I'm like, these people could be doing amazing things in this
mm,
world. And a lot of them, maybe it's just family stuff. Maybe it's not even up to them.
sure.
It wasn't their fault. They have to live in the streets.
Yeah, man,
And
it's
it's
fucked up.
like, and it's fucked up. And I think to myself, like, I'm gonna stop thinking about me a little bit and my problems, because that's only gonna benefit me, and that's one person. So I'm gonna focus on me and the people that I'm going to impact.
Got you.
So it's kind of like, I'm not gonna be worried about everybody in the world,
Sure.
obviously, but um, but I'm gonna worry about the people that I impact,
Yeah,
the people that actually understand, and that,
sure.
and stuff, and that listen.
So Johnny, let me ask you this: if you feel comfortable going down this path, you've told us about, as a kid coming to the States, you really started having some anger struggles, and then you've talked about falling into depression. I was wondering if you could speak to your experience in therapy. And part of why I want to talk about that is I just hear this message in social media from some guys that, either therapy is bullshit, or, Andrew Tate would say, therapy was the reason why somebody like Robin Williams actually took his life, which is fucking insane. So I know that not every therapist is the same. You've had different experiences. Could you speak to maybe some of the things that were beneficial or helpful to you?
I think that, excuse me, anything. It doesn't have to do with therapy. There's going to be good workers and bad workers. And there are places where bad workers are not that big of a deal. And there are areas where I think that bad workers could possibly ruin someone's life.
Mm,
Because I think that if you work bad at, let's say, McDonald's or like fast food, if you do something bad, it's like, okay, like, you're not going to kill someone, right? But a therapist, if a therapist isn't the best, or if a therapist doesn't know what he or she is doing, that could really mess somebody up.
yeah.
Because something about is, you really got to understand the person. It's not about what you think. Fuck what you think. It's about how the other person is feeling.
Mm,
And it's, and you have to understand, I feel like a therapist has to understand that a lot of the times, or most of the times, it's worse than what the patients say it is.
okay.
Because a lot of what I realized, that a lot of people with mental health issues don't know how to express it.
Right.
So they express it by what? Anger issues?
Sure.
Just breaking walls, breaking doors, hurting themselves.
Sure.
That's how they express it.
Different types of addiction.
Different types of drug addiction. Like, how else are they going to express it?
Right.
It's a sad thing. It's a really sad thing. So I feel like, wait, I forgot the question.
So the question was, could you speak to what was helpful about like the therapy process?
Oh, okay. So I feel like you always have to realize as a therapist that what a person is going through is probably way worse than what you think, because a
Mm,
lot of people with mental health issues don't know really like what is wrong with them. They
Sure.
can't express something that they don't understand. You can't you can't express something that you're not aware of. You could say that you're sad, but wait, this is not a normal sad feeling. I guess I'm mad. Wait, this is not a normal mad feeling. So what is it?
Right. There's confusion.
But then you'll get a therapist that will make you think about it a different way,
Mm.
and that will make you answer your own questions so you could change your life by yourself and the healthy way, which is the good way. And you will have a therapist that says, "Oh, you're this and that, you need this and that will like completely assume, if you understand.
Yeah.
Completely like just let me give an example. The normal thing in society is if you have anger issues, a therapist will give you like a stress ball or something like that.
Sure.
But I feel like a good therapist wouldn't just give you a stress ball because it's the normal thing to do.
Right.
Because, oh, you have anger issues, here, have a stress ball. I think a good therapist will try to understand you.
Mm.
Do you see?
Oh yeah.
I
No, I
think
couldn't agree
I
more.
think that a good therapist will try to understand you and again make you answer your own questions in a different way. See
Sure.
it in a different way. Because a lot of the time, you know your own answers, believe it or not.
Right.
All you got to do is, and I know that from experience, and all you got to do is just think about it a different way, and it's much easier than you think.
Sure.
You just need to think about it a different way,
Okay.
a
So
more
so for
positive
you,
way.
part of the benefit of therapy was just having a conversation with another person where you were thinking about stuff in your life, things you were feeling just in a very different way,
Yeah.
and it helped you come to your own sort of conclusions and
Yeah,
your own
yeah,
insights.
yeah. It helps me, and
How about this? How about this? I have guys that will tell me, well, I could just talk to my friends, or I can just talk to my mom or my dad. I fuck therapy. I don't need to pay money to have kind of a stranger talk to me or talk at me. What's what's maybe wrong with that approach? How is therapy different than just talking to a friend?
it's because, ooh, I feel like there's a lot of problems
Mm,
just talking. I feel like I feel like talking to your friends and talking to your family and not going straight to therapy and just kind of like the first step of getting help once you
sure.
see something,
Oh yeah.
that is the way to go. That is the way to go, is talking to your friends and family, because
Absolutely.
and then
And,
if
and
you
even if you're in therapy, please continue to talk to
please,
your friends and
exactly,
family.
exactly, about like all your issues.
But I think
And
there's a difference.
there's a big difference, because once you pass the line that you're not just wanting someone to listen to you, and you're actually curious about what's your problem,
Right.
and you're wanting to go a little bit more, and you realize it's a bit more of a bigger issue than you thought it was.
Sure.
That's where you can't put them with that responsibility,
Mm,
because then you leave them with the high responsibility that they don't know about,
sure.
because they don't know how bad it is.
Right.
No matter how much you tell them about it, they'll never know how bad it is.
It's a great point.
So they'll give you advice that could mess you up,
Right.
which is a huge responsibility for them, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
They don't know that.
No, that's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was your experience. For me, one of the things that was really helpful about going to my own therapy was he wasn't just going to tell me exactly what I wanted to hear. I mean, sometimes friends and family, because they love us so much, that they're just going to sit there and kind of agree, or, yeah, let's just keep on doing this. My therapist, it was never an asshole or mean, but, would not always agree with me, or would say, you're full of shit, or that's maybe not the best way to look at it.
Yeah.
And that stung, but it was what I needed to hear.
Yeah. It's extremely important to say what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Mm,
Because I promise you that everything you want to hear is just like a drug. It'll feel good once you hear it, but then on the long run,
yeah.
you're gonna realize, damn,
Yeah.
like this is all such a false reality of myself that I created.
Oh yeah.
So how, like, let's get to the thing. It's a false reality. So get to to your real reality.
Sure.
And even if it's not a good reality, okay, get to your real reality. Even if it's a super depressing reality
Sure.
of who you actually are, and then from there build the real reality.
Man, you're just speaking the truth. Like you have to go down to who you really are,
To you,
even if it's ugly, right?
and then build from there.
Because if not, you're just bullshitting yourself. It's a lie.
I feel like if you already, I feel like if you already start off like the middle process of everything and the ending is
Right.
like, but if you already start something off with like not the real you, that's gonna be a shitty foundation that
Man, so true.
you're not gonna be able to you're not gonna be able to build from there because it all started from what you're not, and that's you're gonna build something that you're not for so long, and then whenever everyone's looking at you as if you were a different person, and you're like, wait, this isn't me, and you want people to know the real you, and
Yes.
no one knows the real you,
Right.
and you're lonely and you're sad, and then that's
I always,
all the worst.
I always like to think of therapy being one place where a guy can go in and over time experiment with the real him and
Right.
let out, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then learn how to kind of bring that into the world.
Right. Yeah, I feel like also having awareness of
Mm,
what is happening in the world, because
that's good.
right,
That's important.
right,
Awareness.
yes, because um regardless, this world isn't meant for soft people,
Mm,
and I'm not saying it's bad if you're like a soft person, but like it's just you gotta be aware of just how bad the world is,
sure.
compared to like how good the world
Yeah, no,
is.
absolutely.
You gotta be 100% aware, because and I feel like that also is the reason why so many, like, once you get to the 15 and above age,
Sure.
so many more young people, young men are extremely depressed,
Mm,
because once you're aware of how the world actually is, that brings anxiety and fear and sadness
mm,
and anger. But when you're little, you're not aware of any of that. So
right.
you can't, when you're younger, you can't, like 10 years old, you can't be scared of something that you're not aware about.
Sure.
Like right now, we're just chilling. And then if somebody says, hey, there's a meteor that's about to hit,
Right. Yeah,
Texas
I'm
right
gonna
now,
freak the
we're
fuck
gonna freak
out.
the fuck out,
Yeah.
right? We weren't aware of this, so we don't really care.
Yeah. Well, I think that maybe goes back to I don't know the exact details of when you started to maybe be really afraid of death, but some could
Yeah.
argue that real little kids, if they haven't had an experience of death, they don't really think about it. But once you have the ability to kind of recognize, holy shit, I'm gonna die, this is gonna end, then it creates some of those problems, right? So the awareness of it is necessary, but can be kind of problematic too.
It can be problematic if I feel like it's a lot about timing. It's
Okay.
when you are aware of that. I feel like if you grow up and you're having a good childhood, and then you become aware of that and your life is going good and stuff like, and you could think to yourself, dang, like it's all gonna be over, but I have faith in God, and I really believe in the eternal life.
Mm,
But then also, if you become aware of like the world and like death and everything, whenever you're in a really bad mental state,
yeah.
that's when it's like
That's when it can fuck you up.
and then you can't say, oh, I have faith on anything, because you
Right.
don't really believe. You don't have anything to believe in.
Sure.
It's like, okay, so what am I gonna say? What am I gonna think? What am I gonna do to kind of like calm me down a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously that's how the whole cycle can start with
Sure.
drugs, everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the main sort of symptoms of depression is hopelessness.
Hopelessness, yes.
And that's a real bitch. I want
Ugh,
Andrew Tate to
uh-uh.
say, just change your mind on that. Yeah, that dog's trying to get in.
I think that Andrew Tate. I think that hopelessness is really, really, it's a scary thing to have.
Yeah.
It's a
especially if
really
you've had it, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a very scary thing to have, especially whenever you have all the reasons not to be like that,
Mm,
but you're still like that.
sure.
That's the difference I'm trying to talk about. It's like people have reasons to be like that, but when you
Right.
have no reason, you still feel that way. It's like some people have no reason, and there are some people in the world who are just ungrateful
Sure.
and spoiled, and they're like whatever, and they're never happy about anything. But there are some people who were born with a very powerful chemical imbalance, and no matter what they have in life, they just can't be happy.
Mm,
They just can't wake up and say, now let's go have a good day, let's go
sure.
hang out with friends. And maybe if they could do that, their lives would be better, but they can't,
They
because
can't.
some people
Yeah.
have no friends, some people have nothing, some people actually have nothing.
Mm. So, okay, Johnny, let me ask you this. I know I've asked you a bunch of questions. We've explored a lot of different like
Mhm.
material. Is there something that you really wanted to share kind of before we sign off that's really important to you? Anything you'd want, any of the listeners to know?
Yes. I want everybody to know that no matter what is going on in this world, you can literally do whatever you want, and to make this world your playground, because if God promised us eternal life and we're only here for a short amount of time, might as well live it up as much as possible. And yes, work hard. Yes, do this and that. Yes, grind and to be successful, but do it happy. Do it with a positive attitude. Go up to somebody in the streets and say, you know, I love you even.
Mm,
Do shit that makes people think that it's not normal only because society made it seem like it's not normal.
okay.
But do it because that's how you feel, and that's the love that you want to give to people. And that's the love that I want to give to people. Cuz a lot of those guys that are smiling, a lot of those young men that are smiling and that seem happy, they're not, they're going through the worst
Mm,
sometimes.
mm,
And you only real and sadly in this world, the sad part is that most of the time we only realize how bad it is once that person is actually gone.
yeah. And if I can maybe throw out one thing before we sign off,
Mhm.
kind of not just as a therapist, but as a man and most importantly as a human being, I would encourage anyone who's listening to check in with a man in their life who
Right.
they might think is kind of struggling, because a lot of times we fight the fight of depression in a silent way, and like you
Hmm.
said, it's sometimes too late.
Right.
Someone goes through with one of the worst things possible, taking their own life,
Yeah.
and some people never see the signs. So I'm always big on check in with the guys,
Right.
in a way that's not going to kind of freak them out, but make sure that they know there's someone in their life that
Exactly.
cares.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm gonna tie something in really quick.
Please.
Uh, when I go to Alpha Land and I see those, and I see uh the crazy influencers, the super uh, famous influencers, I'm allowed to speak to them like they were my friends. I'm allowed to speak to them like they're a normal person in the street. And that's because I think it's extremely important that if you want to speak to another guy, or if you want to put yourself out there because you're feeling hopeless, never to put somebody up there,
Mm,
never to put somebody in a pedestal. Not if not a guy, not a girl, even if it's like a super fine girl,
sure.
never pretend like she's up there, and and you have to, it's kind of hard for, it's kind of like you have to do something, like feel like you need to do something to impress that person
Mm,
or be some different type of way,
yeah.
because all those people, no matter the numbers, no matter how much money is in the world, all those people is just like us.
Yeah.
We're all just
We're all
humans,
just
we're all the
human.
same thing. I see people going crazy when they meet famous people, and I go up to them and I'm like, I introduce myself. I I talk to them, normal simple conversation, and that's it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So yes, completely. I think that any chance you get, you have to talk to someone, because, and I guess us men, it's kind of hard since it's really hard to get into our emotional side.
Oh yeah.
But I think that if you just say fuck it to the awkwardness a little bit, one time
Yeah, you got to say fuck it a little bit
to
to
the
that
awkwardness,
awkwardness.
a little
Sure.
bit. It's gonna happen probably.
Sure.
There's gonna be awkward moments probably when that happens, but that's okay.
It's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly.
We can get through it.
And it'll help you out a lot once
Yeah.
you actually talk to that person about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Man, so Johnny, this has been great. I really enjoyed sitting down with you and kind of learning more about your story and some of your thoughts on mental health and life. I always ask my guests to end with the line of the podcast, which is continue the conversation. Can you end with those words?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me and continue with the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.